obsolete? A giant electronic brain has started cogitating at the University of Pennsylvania. It's made of vacuum tubes like your radio, and it can add up a column of figures a yard long in a second. It's the world's first electronic computer. Right now, it's solving mathematical problems for the U.S. Army, but who knows, someday a machine like this may check up on your income tax.
But once the level of computer competence has risen beyond the best human engineers, then there won't be any human engineers. There will be robotic or computer engineers.
We might one day duplicate man, his form, his body, his actions and reactions, carefully engineered for lifelike appearance.
Non-biological intelligence is growing exponentially. Biological intelligence isn't really growing at all. Or if it's growing at such a slow rate that it's not noticeable, which is why non-biological intelligence ultimately will become dominant.
So the difference between biological and artificial intelligence can be summed up in one word: life. At least that's what Dr. White believes. It is indeed hard to imagine that one day digital machines created by us will have a consciousness.
Ultimately, it literally gets confused until ultimately it falls over onto its butt. There you go.
But then, why do we think of ourselves as such unique and sacred mechanisms? After all, we are also defined by a digital code, our DNA code. The approach used today in building artificial intelligence is not to try to program conscious beings, but instead to let those robots learn by themselves, to acquire knowledge step by step, just as we do.
There's no actual programming done in these things. What we do is we create a neural topology, like the way that our nervous network is designed, the brain on top and all those little tendrils that go to all our muscles. And then what happens is that because there's no other solution for it, when this thing powers on, it learns to walk. You can actually watch it. When it comes up, it goes completely crazy. Okay? And all its legs, it basically comes up in a state of epileptic fit. And then it winds up being able to figure its way out. And as you watch, there, it just learned to walk. So it programmed itself in a very short period of time. Most people have always assumed that you're supposed to build a brain and then sort of like a body will fall out of it, right? The thing is, of course, is that well over half the species on the planet have no brain to speak of at all, but they manage to survive and move around very well and very effectively. So what we've done is we've tried to evolve things from the bottom up. And in the process, we have not yet evolved brains, but we have managed to evolve very effective nervous systems.
I'm not like you. Aw, did he say he loves me? I love you too.
If we give machines a body, if we build embodied entities, if we let them right from the start being part of a community, if we make them learn interacting with us, learning to distinguish between themselves and the environment, then automatically things like love and stuff like that will emerge. A newborn baby doesn't have those values at all. It learns it by interacting with its parents, its family, and its community.
My worry is that if artificial intelligence is allowed to develop entirely separately from us, and if it develops a lot more quickly than we can alter our biological bodies, then it may become vastly more intelligent, more wise than us, and we'll get left behind. And personally, I don't want to be left behind. I'd rather be up there with the most advanced creatures.
If we don't want to end up obsolete at birth, if we want to stay the most advanced beings, there seems to be only one solution: to become robots ourselves.
Whether we like it or not, we're becoming cyborgs. We're becoming transhumans. Transhuman is an evolution from human to post-human, where we're no longer exclusively biological. So the cyborg is having all sorts of add-ons. Are we walking around naked? No, we have clothes. We have eyeglasses. We have earplugs. Now these are very, very basic, early add-ons to our biology. We're also having much more innumerable add-ons, prosthetic parts, inorganic hearts. We will see much more advanced prosthetics in the years to come. Eventually we'll have entirely prosthetic bodies.
Human as a design is a wonderful design, but humans as a design have some faults. One fault is we were not designed for the modern age. The industrial age has equipment moving faster than we are, and equipment that's very large that crushes us. So we were designed with an endoskeleton, meaning our bones are on the inside, with our soft tissue on the outside. The world would be better for us now if we had our bones on the outside, like an exoskeleton. So we were like a beetle.
Post-human, I think, will be post-biological. By that I mean that it'll be a gradual process. There won't be any sudden transition to a different form. I think we'll gradually integrate more and more technology into our bodies. We'll be replacing our organs with more efficient organs. We'll gradually replace this neural tissue because it dies off after a while. It's easily subjected to chemical damage. So eventually I think we'll replace our brain cells with essentially computerized parts. It'll be much more efficient, much more powerful.
In this future, people will be young, youthful. They won't suffer from illnesses and diseases.
He said the goal is to transform humans to godlike humans, and that you're looking forward to that transformation.
Over the past few decades, tremendous advancements have been made in the field of neuroscience, from mapping the human brain to creating devices that can capture digital images of our thoughts. But what if we could upload a digital copy of our memories and consciousness to a point that human beings could actually achieve a sort of digital immortality? This idea has inspired many science fiction movies, including the upcoming film Transcendence, where one man's mind is uploaded into a supercomputer which possesses the collective knowledge of all of humanity. While the film is fiction, the concept behind it is very real. It's also the subject of a new book called Future of the Mind, which is currently #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. The author is renowned theoretical physicist Michio Kaku. Earlier today, Breaking the Set producer Manuel Rapolo caught up with Dr. Kaku and first asked him how far we really are from achieving a digital upload of consciousness.
Just last year, for the first time in world history, a memory was recorded. We can actually tape record a memory and insert it back into an animal, and it remembers. This is amazing. At Wake Forest University, also in Los Angeles, they took a mouse, trained the mouse to sip water, recorded the memory in the hippocampus right here, small organ that processes memory. The mouse later forgot that. Then they shot the memory back into the mouse, and bingo, the mouse got it the first. Future, in fact, today we can get so that you walk into a room, we'll put on a headset, such that you can control the lights, turn on the TV, call for your car, tell your car where to go, type, dictate documents without ever touching a computer screen. And our children will wonder, how could you possibly live in a world where you had to touch the screen and you had a mouse and you had to type? Everybody just thinks and types, makes documents, controls cars.
It's fascinating where we're headed, and it seems like it really is inevitable. And I think a lot is taken for granted over the things that we're already able to do now. I mean, you were just referring to these sensors in the brain that can capture images inside the brain.
And the short-term goal is to create a brain pacemaker for Alzheimer's patients. In the future, we're going to have millions of people who forget where they live, wander around. Why not have a button? You push the button, and you immediately remember where you live, who you are, who your kids are. And beyond that, who knows?
There's aspects that I think are a little bit terrifying. And I wanted to ask you about this new pill that's being developed that can slow down a person's perception of time. And what's being said is that, you know, this could be applied to prisoners. And given they'll take a pill, it'll slow down the perception of time so that eight hours could feel like 1,000 years, a 1,000-year sentence. How would this work, and why does the future sound so terrifying?
Well, we are tinkering with the brain itself. For example, people who have traumatic memories of war, sometimes they're paralyzed with these horrible memories of a rape, an accident, warfare. We can create a forgetful drug that actually takes the edge of many of our most violent and oppressive memories. However, the President's Commission on Bioethics recommended against marketing the forgetful drug because they said that even unpleasant memories are useful. We learn from them. But personally, I think that sometimes some memories are so disastrously awful that they paralyze you. They prevent you from becoming a normal person. And I think we should allow forgetful drugs to be marketed. Also, drugs and therapies which can perhaps even increase intelligence are now being talked about. We'll have perhaps memories that we can upload into the mind, perhaps memories of a job that we're not trained for. Or perhaps a college student will upload a course that they flunked in college. We can perhaps increase our intelligence. And now we're also investigating super intelligence, photographic memory. People who memorize everything. They hear a concert, they see a landscape, they can draw the landscape, they can reproduce the entire concert on one try. How is it possible that people have that mind? We now believe that the mind records, but the mind also forgets deliberately. These people, the forget mechanism is broken. They never forget. They have a photographic memory, and we think that some great scientists of the past had this ability, the ability to have access to powers of the mind that we cannot as mortals.
Right, and this is nothing new. This is something that can date back for a very long time. People that have those photographic memories, and you've actually said that right now, the time that we're living in is the golden age for learning about the mind. That we've learned more in the last 15 years than in all of prior human history. Why? What took so long?
Because only recently have we had the physics, the instruments like the MRI scans that are sensitive enough to see the blood flow of the thinking brain down to like 1/10 of a millimeter. And now we have supercomputers that can actually read these thoughts and control computers by thinking. So by thinking, we can now control mechanical arms, mechanical legs. We can type. We can control thermostats, turn on the web, change a channel on a TV set, turn on the toaster. All of it just mentally. And at the next International Soccer Games in Brazil, scientists at Duke University want to take someone who's totally paralyzed, outfit him with an exoskeleton, and he will introduce the International Soccer Games in Brazil.
That's amazing.
Geist has developed a male version of its android robot Actroid F, which was first shown to the public last year. These human-like robots imitate the movements of the people they are watching and are currently being placed as observers in hospitals to see how patients feel in their presence.
Now take a look at this next video. This is another example of what DARPA is working on. First it starts out with the Petman project, and now we've got this robot, Atlas, that stands 6'2", is 330 pounds, possibly the most advanced humanoid robot ever built. And this is part of a contest that is being sponsored by DARPA. And if you want to know what they are going to use these robots for, what the military-industrial complex and the police-industrial complex is going to use these robots for, just take a look at the trailer for Elysium. This is what it's going to look like. Police robots questioning people and brutalizing them in ways that we're seeing our human robots now in the police departments doing, but it'll be much easier to do that with real robots than it is with police, because the real robots aren't going to develop a conscience.
Number 3 now. Number 3. Code 108,
It gives me a lot of information regarding what's going on there because it provides real-time video feed, and I don't have to put an officer right in front of the place, so it's quite an advantage having this.
Info 22. Hold on, there's 70, 01.
A really skilled sniper or somebody who's trained a lot can almost match that. But introduce a bit of stress, a bit of heat, a bit of cold, a bit of fatigue. They're downhill, and this thing is just, it's unbeatable.
Primary on him, but they'll give you a push on the team.
The first successful attempt to transfer one's personality to an alternative carrier. The epoch of cybernetic immortality begins. For the man of the future, war and violence are unacceptable. The main priority of his development is spiritual self-improvement. A new era dawns. The era of neo-humanity.
DARPA is the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. It's one of the large departments of the U.S. that uses our tax dollars to hire other people to come up with great ideas, private laboratories, things like that. But in last year's operating budget and in this year's operating budget, for instance, they have set aside millions of dollars for rewriting the DNA of our soldiers.
Why would they want to rewrite the DNA of our soldiers?
Super soldier technology, and furthermore, they are being advised by some of the top think tanks in the world that our competitors, our enemies, are privately developing this technology right now, and that if we don't get ahead of it, in fact, the Jasons, which is one of the top scientific advisory panels in the world, told them that if we weren't secretly, privately ahead of the human enhancement revolution, we would fall irreparably behind and be dominated on the future battlefield.
What about the mark of the beast? How does this tie in?
Well, the mark of the beast, I think this could play in the form of like a living chip, a biochip. We are doing experiments right now with chips that can deliver medicines into your systems, but some of these could be designed to actually carry payloads, to carry vectors, as they're called, to work almost like a virus that could introduce a new genetic code to rewrite your genetic makeup. And some people believe that perhaps that's how the mark of the beast will alter humans so that they're no longer redeemable by literally going through their system and rewriting their genetic makeup.
You're saying a lot. Who's funding this?
Because there are departments in the U.S. government like the National Institute of Health. That's the largest one in the U.S. that doles out your money for health-related science and research. And right now, they are giving grants to universities that are actually developing the legalese, the language that will be used for extending, for instance, constitutional rights to human non-humans, to humans of the future whose genetic material has been altered sufficiently enough to no longer even be considered to be human. Well, if we weren't secretly, privately ahead of the human enhancement revolution, we would fall irreparably behind and be dominated on the future battlefield.
What about the ethics of this? Will these people be considered humans? Will they be considered equal to us? Will they be able to vote? Or will they be like pets if they're half human and half animal?
Well, I tell you, it really gets into some...
You know, when I became president in January of 1993, back in the dark ages, the average cell phone weighed 5 pounds. And there were 50 sites on the entire World Wide Web. 50. There have been more added than that since I've been talking.
God made man in his own image. God intended for man to become one with God. We are going to become one with God. Cloning and the reprogramming of DNA is the first serious step in becoming one with God.
This issue is going to dominate our global politics this century. This is the issue that will color the century. As we merge with machines, and I think it's inevitable that we will transform into something new.
Evolution is a spiritual process. It moves us closer to the ideal of God. I mean, what is God? God is described as being unlimited in intelligence, creativity, love, beauty.
More computing capacity in a little grain of sugar when it's nanotech, 1 bit per atom and flipping back and forth in femtoseconds. There's more computing capacity in that grain of sand than our human brain by a factor of, billions or so. So these machines, if we decide to build them, we're building gods. We humans are going to start linking with each other and become this meta-intelligence. And we will eventually become an interconnection of the entire human race. And we will become godlike. Once you plug into that global network and you know the thoughts and feelings of millions or billions of people, to unplug yourself and be so lonely.
At this moment in our civilization, we can create cybernetic individuals who, in just a few short years, will be completely indistinguishable from us. Which leads to an obvious conclusion. We are the gods now.